Meeting of the Port Orange Planning Commission for Thursday, September 26th. To order, please. If you stand, we'll recite the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Amen. Thank you, everybody. If you call the roll, please.
John Junko.
Here.
Maria Mills Bennett.
Here.
Bo Bofamy.
Here.
Newton White.
Here.
Lance Green.
Here.
Stan Schmidt.
Here.
Chairman Thomas Jordan.
Here. Thank you very much. Full house tonight here. Consideration of the minutes from the last monthly meeting.
Move to be approved.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second on the minutes to be approved. You call the roll.
John Junko.
Yes.
Maria Mills Bennett.
Yes.
Bo Bofamy.
Yes.
Newton White.
Here.
Lance Green.
Yes.
Stan Schmidt.
Yes.
Chairman Thomas Jordan.
Yes. Is there a problem down there, Neil?
No.
Miss Penelope, you want to come
You
forward
want to get
for
off
us?
the phone while we're here.
Good evening,
wishing we
Planning
had it
Commission.
now.
Penelope Cruz, Planning. Per the request of applicant for case number 19-200000003, 19-1 large-scale future land use amendment, and case number 19-65000002, PUD rezoning, Fleur de Sol planned unit development. The applicant has requested that these items be continued to the date certain of October 24th, 2019 Planning Commission, so next month's Planning Commission.
All righty. Thank you very much. So for those of you who were here for that tonight, you can come back next month. So moving on to item.
Do we need to make a motion on that to move that to time certain or no? No? Okay.
Item number 7 on the agenda. Boy, the lawyers just lost out on some billable hours here. So
Wow.
try to stretch it out here. Item number 7 is case number 19-40000005. It's a request to amend the master development agreement and the conceptual development plan for the Port Orange Gateway Center planned commercial development, aka Lowe's. And Brianna? Oh, no. You guys switch up on me.
Good evening again, Penelope Cruz, Planning. So the subject site is Lot 6 of the Gateway Center PCD. You can see the Gateway Center includes the entire property that's in that darker shade of blue, and then Lot 6 is that lighter shade of blue there on that slide. So at a recent commercial property maintenance inspection through code enforcement, Lowe's was notified that some of that outdoor display and storage of merchandise, as well as garden supplies and some of the trailers in the back was not being handled in accordance with what their current master development agreement and the land development code allows. So that's why we're here tonight. Through going through that process and working through that with Lowe's and with code enforcement, they have submitted this proposed master development agreement and conceptual development plan amendment to address that storage situation on the site. So the current MDA, just so that we understand what the current MDA allows and what they're asking for, basically allows for storage along that frontage here of the site, as long as it's behind a 4-foot screen wall. And we've all, been to Lowe's. You can see that there's display along that frontage. However, that 4-foot screen wall was only built in this area right over here, basically where the carts are stored as a cart corral. So this amendment addresses that situation, intends to address that as well as a few other items. So the proposed amendment is looking to address a couple things. Like we said, to address where this outdoor storage is to be handled on site. And so you can see here, the concept plan is identifying where those existing areas are and is looking to legitimize that in the master development agreement so that they can then follow up next step in amending their site plan. The city's land development code allows for outdoor storage. if it's shown on an approved site plan. All of the areas where storage is taking place right now is not shown on their approved site plan, because it's not particularly allowed in their master development agreement. So the first step is that they're trying to amend the master development agreement to kind of clarify where they'd like to be able to store these things, so that they can then follow up with amending their site plan to show these display areas on their site plan. The other thing the proposed amendment is looking to do is to expand the garden center in this area out here. So that's the other piece of it. And then also to address in the MDA, just mostly for clarification, how the temporary sale of items is handled. So for example, the Christmas tree sales, that is allowed in their MDA, but they're looking to just clarify on the concept plan the exact location, so there's no question there when it comes to enforcement and interpretation in the future, and to also clarify in the MDA that the timing of that setup, the time of the event, takedown, is going to be pursuant to the city's existing codes. So that's clarification language has been added to the MDA and also shown on the concept plan of the limited area that would be allowed right here. Oops, that didn't go. Okay. Going through this amendment with them and trying to make sure everything's captured accordingly so that the site plan can be amended accordingly. It was identified that it does create actually two policy considerations for the Planning Commission and City Council to consider. So we talked about that the Land Development Code allows for outdoor storage if it's shown on a site plan. What it limits is that for things such as merchandise, such as like the grills, lawnmowers, and things that they have out front, the Land Development Code limits to one model, one product type out there. Doesn't have that limitation on the landscaping, like the plants and things, but for the merchandise side of it, the grills, the patio furniture, those types of things, there's that limitation to the quantity of each product. And so that creates a policy consideration because it's a deviation from their code. They're asking in this MDA to be able to have more than one of each of those items. So more than one grill, more than one lawnmower, things like that. And the staff report went into the justification that they provided as far as why they're asking for that, as far as ease of use for transporting some of these heavy items across the store and loading them into people's cars and things like that. And the applicant can get into that a little bit more as well. The second thing that came up as we were going through this amendment request with them was the expansion of the garden center. They would like to continue the existing facade treatment of the garden center along the front and side of the expansion, the areas that are visible to the public, those masonry columns with the aluminum, the metal fencing and screening. But they are requesting that on the rear portion that is not part of a typical public access, to be able to have that vinyl coated chain link fencing in the rear. The Land Development Code does not allow any kind of chain link fencing for properties that are in the Dunlawton corridor. And so because this property is considered part of the Dunlawton corridor, this is a policy consideration that has to be called out. Let's see if I move. This is moving very slow for me. So staff is recommending approval of the amendment, subject to approval by the Planning Commission and City Council of those two policy considerations, and review and approval by the City Attorney's Office. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have. I know the applicant's here and would probably like to speak to some of these things in a little bit more detail as well.
Sure.
I'm
Lance,
gonna wait because I got like several different questions,
Okay.
but yeah, I'll wait until I see
Sure.
the applicant.
Newton?
Yes, the storage of the named items of things that would be stored there, is that, this is what they're gonna be able to put there. They're gonna be able to put gas grills and lawnmowers, and we're not gonna see yard statues there 2 weeks after we pass this. In other words, are they specifying in this what they're going to actually display?
Yeah, it says on the actual concept plan and the recorded document that they have display of lawn furniture mowers, grills, yard equipment, propane tanks, over in this, where you see this kind of this peach color. Under the lumberyard area, the display of lumber and drywall products. And then where you can see here in this blue area, display of live plants, garden material, sod and mulch. I know, like I said, the applicant is here, can get into that a little bit further. This is what code enforcement is going to be using as their reference point for further inspections.
So you follow what I'm
Mhm.
asking, what, that's gonna be what's there, and would this change convey, forever? Say if Lowe's decides not to renew their lease or whatever and moves out of the location, would the next owner have this privilege?
Yes, if it's the same type of a use, if it's this
Okay.
use, if it's a use that the MDA allows on this site, retail sales and service, then this is what's allowed on this site, on lot 6.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Stan?
I guess the only question I had too is that, so this agreement would only apply to this parcel with Lowe's and Target, so it wouldn't apply
Not Target,
to-
this is only lot 6 Lowe's.
Okay, so it's just that one
Mhm.
half of this, okay. That's what I was wondering about, is that it would also impact other areas?
No, it's only for lot 6.
All right, sounds good.
Mhm.
Bo?
Yeah, it's interesting, this, what, like the Ninth Amendment?
Yeah.
And also, you say it's part of the Dunlawton corridor.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like it would be part of the Yorktown. You know, it's
The-
kind of,
The property fronts on Dunlawton, as you can see here.
Yeah.
So, all those main commercial property, all the properties that are on that frontage of Dunlawton are considered the Dunlawton corridor.
okay. No, I don't have any questions.
Oh, yeah?
The only thing I was gonna say is kinda what Newton was. I'd like us to be specific about what the display is so that they can't just throw anything out there. You know, bags of mulch, you know, whatever. Other than that, I think I'm okay.
John?
I see the proposed garden center expansion
Mhm.
is digging into the existing parking lot.
Mhm.
Is this going to affect that existing parking lot and creep into that vegetation barrier or the buffer?
No. So as part of the review, you can see here on the concept plan where the parameters of the expansion area are. It does not impact the buffer. There's still a row or two of parking before you get to the conservation buffer area. Staff also evaluated the parking to ensure that the parking spaces that were being removed by this expansion would not make the site fall under the minimum requirements, and it would not.
Okay, so it's gonna leave the vegetation barrier alone?
Yes.
Okay, the other question, just curious, and I'm in there almost every day. Everything that state's proposed is currently being used as such
Mhm.
for what they're asking for.
Mhm.
They just wanna do it correctly.
Mhm.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Until you give them your blessing, it's proposed, because if it gets denied at council, then it has to move.
Okay. They've been
Nice.
doing it that way for years.
Oh, yeah, they
Correct.
got a lot of
Yeah.
stuff out there. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, Maria mentioned the mulch.
Mhm.
I know they use that area for mulch.
Yeah, I was gonna touch on that, and just for all transparency, where it says here in the blue, live plants, garden material, sod and mulch, that is where they currently display some of that, and where they
Oh,
intend to
I see what you're
continue
talking
to.
about. I was looking under the mowers, grills, lawn mowers.
Mhm.
Okay, I see.
Kind of in front of that existing garden
Yeah.
center.
Thank you.
good. Yeah, they've got enough stuff out there, they almost encroach into the driveway through there, just from what I saw. A quick question for you, though. One of the issues that was identified was the tractor trailers and the shipping containers as being an
Mhm.
issue, but there's nothing in here about.
So that's
that.
back here in the green.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So, you can actually see right now if you drive out there where those things are.
Yep.
Again, this is one of those situations, just like the display in the front, where they're trying to legitimize what's going on right now. They're asking to be able to legitimize what's going on right now, put it in their master development agreement, so that then they can amend their site plan
Where
to
is
reflect
that? Where is that?
it's on this concept plan. It's just showing that location, because It's allowed by code as long as it's
Right.
screened from view from the
Oh, okay,
public.
so it's-
So it's one of those situations where the code allows it, but their MDA was more limiting than the code.
I didn't see anywhere in here, unless I'm missing it.
It's on this blueprint looking thing.
It's on the concept plan. It's
Oh,
the amendment
okay,
to the.
but
It's
not in here.
It's
All right,
part of the
that's why.
concept plan
Okay,
of the amendment.
Very cool. One other quick question, which you may or may not know, did Home Depot get busted for all the same issues too?
Code enforcement is aware of the situation at Home Depot, and I'm not sure when their property maintenance is scheduled to occur, but they are aware of that
Gotcha.
situation as
Cool.
well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Hear from the applicant, sir? You are not Mr. Posey.
Not today.
I should have said him. For the record, my name is Glenn Storch, and I represent Lowe's. And as you can tell, our desire is to make sure that we are consistent with the code and to clarify any of these inconsistencies. And one of the advantages, as you can tell also, of having been a good corporate citizen for all these years is you can see how this all works and you see exactly what's there and what we're dealing with. I mean, so to some extent, the fact that we're now expanding the garden center, that's a good thing. You know, provides more opportunities for for our citizens. Provides it's a nice area. That area of the parking lot, as you know, was never used except for Christmas trees sometimes. But other than that, it's a great location for an expansion, and it will look very nice as well. So that's the good thing. The other things are things where, as you can tell, we have worked very closely with the staff to see exactly what they wanted and how we could make this work for everyone. And I don't think there's any other new uses in this whatsoever other than the expansion of the garden center. So the uses we have are the ones that we've worked together on to make sure there's clarifications as to exactly what will be there, so that when they come out here, they can say, you are either in compliance or you're not in compliance. And some of the things they've cited, I don't know if you noticed this, but they want us to build structures in between these uses, these display areas, and the pedestrian areas to make sure there's no ADA issues. That's fine. We have no problem with that. We'll be glad to work with them in whatever way possible. Again, I think Lowe's, over the years, I spent an awful lot of time there myself. And so I've never had any problems with parking. I've never had any problems with how it's laid out. But this will clean everything up and provide exactly what's going to be allowed and what's not allowed, and to make sure that we're all in compliance, which is, I know what the city wants. And again, the non-compliance is based on a PUD that was done years ago. Some of these things I'm sure weren't thought about then. This is one of the reasons why you have 9 changes. So as we start thinking of these things, as we start working them out, as we work with staff on this, this is what we've done to make sure that we're all on the same sheet of music. Again, other than the only expansion is the area of the garden center. Other than that, it's probably exactly what you're seeing today. I should point out that the request for the garden center to have a different type of area in the back is because nobody goes in the back. I don't know how many times you guys have been in the back of the Lowe's. You don't do that. You can see it from the side. You can see it from Yorktown. You can see it from. You can't even really see it from Dunlawton now, but you can see it from the parking lot. But you don't see it from the back, and so that was the reason why we're looking at treating that as a little differently than the front and from the sides. Is there any questions? And
Lance,
Yeah, right.
I heard you had questions.
My only main concern is, again, up front, and the storage up front is obviously gonna be the look and keeping the appearance nice,
Right.
and accessibility. I've been through there some days where they've got enough mowers and enough grills out there where you can't get in the store. So having accessibility is gonna be a big thing for me, and making sure that they keep it in a zone where people can get the front of it or back of it, or make sure that we can,
And
get to the store.
And if we want to we can do that in 2 ways. We can clarify it in the PUD that accessibility will not be impacted.
Okay.
All right, I think that's important. I don't have a problem.
Then I
with
noticed
that.
we're selling trailers out there as well. We're selling
So let's
trailers.
So let's add a provision that says accessibility will not be impacted, and then on your site plan, we will show that. Now, but I will tell you this: if you look at the way this thing is set out, you're going to have the only areas that will be allowed are those areas that are shown. They won't be able to spread out now. And so, as we're working together on this, these are the areas and that's it. So I think
Yeah,
that answers your
and that's my
question.
main thing, Glenn, is the front of the store, the appearance
Sure.
of the front of the store. The back of the store and the storage, I'm okay with. The
Yeah.
garden center expansion, I think is a great thing. I just wanna make sure the front of the store stays, you know, organized, where we've
Right.
got a high-class looking Lowe's instead of just a regular Lowe's.
And you know that's their goal as well.
So, yeah.
Well, you know, but you say that, so 3 years from now, somebody there at the store, the new manager, doesn't understand the fact that there are technically areas. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been putting all these products out there now for the past however many years,
Right.
where they were not allowed to put them.
And so first of all, there's a code enforcement issue. So they
Exactly.
they treat those code enforcement issues very seriously, which is why I'm here. So,
Well, I mean, and that's why I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad that our people in Port Orange, that we're making sure that this stays
That's right.
the way it's supposed to be and it's intended, and I appreciate you guys stepping up to clean it up. And let's keep it this
My
way.
directions from Lowe's is to do just that. Work with this, solve the problem, make sure that we're in compliance, and we go from there.
Good deal.
Okay?
That's all I have, Tom.
Newton?
I do agree with this. I mean, if this is, you know, it's kind of become, I don't know if it would have been the same if it was a new building, but I'm used to seeing it. They do a good job at it, and if we're just limiting it to what they're, actually, I think we're curtailing a little bit of what they're currently doing.
You are, and you're not allowing for any expansion or oozing over in other
Right,
areas.
it's gonna be still underneath the eave of the building, underneath the covered area of the building,
To a large extent, it'll be exactly.
except over by the garden
Yeah, I mean,
center.
we're not gonna deal with the accessibility issues anymore, but to a large extent, it's exactly where it is, but we're gonna have the connections now. Is that correct? Help me with this.
Penelope Cruz. So already in the proposed MDA amendment on page 3 of the Master Development Agreement, section 2.3c, we've specifically requested that they put in their MDA that the accessible routes are going to be protected by traffic. There's like the flexible. They didn't want to put actual. I'm sorry.
Travel paths?
They didn't want to put actual.
Bollards?
Bollards
Bollards,
because
there you
of liability issues that they've had in the past with cars backing into them and getting damaged. So there is a flexible option for that has reflectors that we've put in the master development agreement that when they come in on their site plan, they're going to show, and it'll be part of the improvements that are added to make sure that those paths are not blocked anymore. It's in the MDA already.
Beautiful.
But let me clarify that. You asked about it was gonna be underneath
Yeah.
covered area. That's not correct, is it? It could be out.
For the most
Not
part.
all of it
Beyond
will be.
I don't think all of them are underneath that, but again, it's not gonna be any different from what it is right now.
Yeah, down
I
at
just
the
can't
garden
remember.
center.
It actually
Right.
is
No,
better
down in the
than
garden
that.
center can't be, there's no
You're talking
reason.
about like parallel to the wall?
No,
or-
there's the roof overhang comes
Mhm.
out where the columns are.
Mhm.
Will there be allowed to be product beyond that?
They're not into it'll be in the overhang area along the frontage, not within an actual loading zone,
Yes.
and not blocking accessible routes.
Okay, but to clarify what you asked,
So, no, I don't think
if you
it's
look at it
beyond the roof.
today,
It's not past the roof.
they're all past. There's a
Really?
ton of them past there,
Oh, wow.
absolutely.
Yeah, I just don't, the road is the issue, I think.
I'm just trying to clarify, because you made it sound like everything was gonna be underneath
That's why I can't say
that
there's a
awning.
roof over everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not.
That stuff right there.
Okay.
Newton, you
Yeah, I'm good with that. Oh, yeah, one other thing, the temporary place where the Christmas trees,
Yes.
that's temporary, so we're going to limit what we put there and limit how long, I presume,
There'll be-
similar to what we do in other shopping centers.
That's correct.
You're
gonna
only
have
allowed so many permits a year?
that's right. I think you're gonna have a couple, is that right, at that point? But we're having only seasonal sales. One will be Christmas trees, obviously. The size, time frames, everything else will be
And maybe
laid
some
out.
pumpkins.
A bigger one?
You're a
Maybe
punk.
some pumpkins.
The Christmas trees will be on display tomorrow, so,
Oh, come on, Christmas trees are already
I
up.
know, in the store there already, yeah.
Penelope Cruz. So every property in the city of Port Orange has to follow those same special event ordinances. There's time limitations, number of per calendar days you're allowed to have. If it exceeds a certain time frame, you have to get special approval. So like the Christmas sales that exceed over 7 days have to get special approval by city council for those, and it includes setup and takedowns. So everything, so we've clarified in here because there was this past year, took a little bit longer to clean things up than in the past. So we did clarify in the MDA that it needs to follow the city standards for timing of events.
So, I guess express my fear another way is we're not gonna wind up seeing a RV or a boat sale out there every other weekend.
No, absolutely not. And as you can tell, again, we really want to make her happy.
We'll get rid of her migraine if you can make her happy.
I just get tired
Stan?
of seeing it every time.
One question for you. On the
Yes.
new garage area, it looks like on the drawing, the schematic outline of this, it looks like there's probably 2 storm drains in the middle of that. Will there be a different cover on those drains, or is there gonna be a different grade to that, or how's that gonna work?
Honestly, that's an engineering issue, and that will be dealt with during site plan review.
Okay,
They may have to relocate them, I don't know yet.
all right.
It might be under storage racks.
Oh.
Yeah, could be.
The only thing that I was thinking about was will this allow you to do, or allow Lowe's to do like tent sales in the parking lot if they had?
No, I don't think so. I think the only thing we can do is, the only special events area we have is this one area.
Okay.
And that's it.
So they'd never be able to do that even with,
We are trying to create a very, I shouldn't say strict, but a very clear understanding as to exactly what we can do and what we can't do. And I think we've arrived at that. And I think and I really do appreciate staff working with us.
I think the only thing they've ever done out there is Christmas trees.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything else going out there in that parking lot.
a lot of the other stores, you see the appliances and things like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And I, to be clear, I have seen some spring sales where you bring in a bunch of trees and vegetation sometimes, but that's about it.
Yeah, rugs.
Thank you.
Maria?
So I just had a question about, the buffers and the vegetation, now that that ALF is there, and they're gonna be expanding the garden center, is the buffer there enough? Yeah, okay, I was just curious, 'cause I haven't been back there to look.
I gotta tell you, the buffer's extensive,
Okay,
so I don't think you're gonna notice anything different.
I didn't even
I
think
was
to go
just
back
looking
there and
at
look
that
at it.
I was just looking at that on the satellite view.
Yeah, I looked at the front, you know, just to kind of be familiar, and make sure I knew what I was talking about, but I didn't even think to look in the back. So I don't know what the buffer's like, but I just wanna make sure it's good for the ALF that's being built
Yeah.
right there.
And again, don't forget, we still have to go through a site plan review on this project, but I'm not anticipating, I don't think anything even's been built within that buffer. It's all natural vegetation at this point, isn't it? Or is,
Yeah, it looks like it's.
Probably.
okay.
That's all.
You good? John?
Being in a lot of lulls, they tend to pattern the same way.
Yes.
So it's nothing surprisingly different or unique from what they're asking for here, from what I would see in another low in another area. Understandably, the limited manpower we have with code enforcement, and as Lance pointed out, things could go array in a year with new management and new employees, not knowing. A suggestion that I would like to see is the brand color lows, I believe, is blue. Maybe in the designated areas, they can paint L-shaped brackets, very small, subtle, 5/6 L shapes, showing the boundary and say, put your display within this area.
Mhm.
Not too gaudy, not a whole big paint display only, but just little minor blue L shapes in the designated areas where this saves future people.
It's
code
easy for people to
enforcement.
understand.
Yes, say, keep your display within these
Yeah.
brackets.
Yeah, and I will pass that on, I'm sure Penny will pass that on as well to our engineer when we're going through the site plan review process.
It's just a future way to prevent code enforcement.
Although-
And they don't have to be there with a tape measure,
Although I gotta-
measuring things out.
I gotta tell you, the difference is, and you're right, most Lowe's have these areas, and, just like we're talking about here. The difference is, in this case, we will have very strict requirements and guidelines as to where, how much, what you can use, et cetera. And that's the difference. And our people will know that.
Yeah.
Because like I say, I'm getting it from national Lowe's. They wanna make sure that we're compliant.
just for simplicity,
No, I-
code enforcement can drive right through the
I-
front, peek at the marks, so everything's all
Mhm.
I really,
kosher, and
I,
then move on.
I think that's a great idea.
I'd hate to see code enforcement out there with a tape measure.
They- I'm
You know,
sure.
it's just, man.
Ah, there you go.
Yes.
What do you think of the idea?
Sorry I'm late, I couldn't find a place to park.
That's true.
Yeah, family
That's
days.
true.
Yeah.
Family
Park
days.
park at Lowe's.
Yes, Roger Stracola, Upham Inc., I'm the authorized representative for Lowe's Home Centers. In fact, I designed this store, it was the first Lowe's store, actually second Lowe's store in Volusia County, the first one was in Orange City.
Roger, we're just
Yes.
talking, we're just talking about the.
The
how-
delineation?
Display areas and
Yes.
how we can delineate those so that everyone understands in the future.
Okay. What we've done in the past on other stores is we've delineated on the pavement lines for the store manager to stay within. We had to do the exact same thing at the Ormond Beach store.
Oh.
And that way, code enforcement doesn't have to go out there and, like you were saying, measure where it has to be located.
Perfect.
Yep.
If you can add that to the suggestion, I think I would be very happy.
Yeah, and we
I'm there
can.
every day, so you have my,
Okay.
my clientele. So.
And we can indicate that on a final site plan, because we are required to do that.
Okay.
They make
Thank you.
concrete stain, don't they? They don't do stuff like that?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe they can buy it there.
No more questions for me.
You're good? You're good, thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Chair, can I ask another question?
Oh, absolutely.
So I do want to address one thing, and maybe our staff might get involved in it. I want to know how we're going to handle the parking of the commercial vehicles in the evening. They're parking in the front of the store. We're parking semi-trucks across all the parking spots in certain areas of this parking lot. We're parking big box commercial trucks in the front of the store every night.
After hours?
Every night.
During,
every
but
night
during store
in the
hours or
front.
after
The
hours?
evenings there, yeah.
Every single night in the front of that store,
Like
there are
camping out.
closed commercial vehicles, semi-trucks,
Uh-huh,
delivery trucks, box trucks. They all need to be to the back.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They
Yeah.
shouldn't be in the front of the parking lot at night. And
Honestly,
that needs to be addressed.
yeah, honestly, we haven't heard that issue, but I think it's something we can address with the.
I'd like it
national-
I'd like it looked into. I'm
Yeah.
just saying,
Not a
because
problem.
they'll take a semi-truck and they'll park it long ways through all the spots. And again, I understand it's evening and the parking lot's empty, but at the same token, it's the appearance of how our stores look at night when we drive by as well.
I understand, especially since that's the side we're looking.
And they should be, even if they're on the side of the stores, the back of the store, whatever, that's okay, but not in the front.
Fair enough.
All right?
All right, we'll talk.
Thank you.
All right.
That's all I have, Tom, sorry.
No, that's fine, I think, so the one comment earlier was the accessibility, which would not be impacted, which I think has been addressed already, right? Thanks, sir.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that. Turn over to the
Thank you,
public,
Glenn.
anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this particular issue? Yes, sir, Robert, come on up.
Commissioners, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive, Port Orange. My concern is with the permanent trailers in the back. It looks like it totally blocks any transit through there. I don't know if they're already there or they're going to plan on putting them there, but it sounded like they already exist in the back there. And I was just wondering if this has been cleared through the fire department, so that if fire trucks need to get through there, they can do that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I think that's a good question too, Tom. Roger, could you come back up?
This should fix that.
They have very limited space with the lake,
Yeah.
the retention pond.
Can you comment to that particular
Yes,
question?
we're
maybe?
talking about the drive aisle behind the store that
Mhm.
connects with Super Target.
Right.
Yeah, the original design of the site plan allowed for storage of drop-off trailers or trucks along the whole back of the store. And that's also shown on the Exhibit B of the CDP. And there is provided sufficient width for emergency vehicles. But if there are vehicles parking, wider, like too wide across there, that's not permissible. And that, if that is occurring, that is a store operations issue that they will have to be notified, same as the semis parking in the front of the store, because they are not allowed to do that.
So the same thing will hold true is when they're parking these vehicles in the back of the store, they got to stay out of the fire accessibility areas, et cetera. Correct?
They need to keep a per code required access for fire vehicles.
Okay.
And again, we will raise these issues.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know that's part of the commercial inspection process.
Right.
Checking that. I happened to see her there today, as a matter of fact. Anybody else wish to speak to this issue from the public? Last chance. Bring it back to the commission here. I'd entertain a motion for approval, subject to any The recommendation?
Yep, make a motion to pass 19-40000005 with the approval of 2 policy considerations and reviewed by the city attorney as to legal form and content.
Wow, good job. We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and we have a second. You want to call the roll and replace?
John Junko.
Yes.
Maria Mills Burnett.
Yes.
Bill Bofamy.
Yes.
Newton White.
Yes.
Lance Green.
Yes.
Stan Schmidt.
Yes.
Thomas Jordan.
Yes. Congratulations, gentlemen. Thank you. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thanks, Glenn.
Moving on to item number 8 on our agenda, which is case number 19-9. Am I reading the right one? Yeah, 90000006, a variance from the LDC to establish a minimum 18-inch side setback for ground-mounted air conditioning units and other similar equipment in lieu of the required 30-inch side yard setback. Mr. Berman.
Wow, we get 10.
Nice to see you. Nice shirt.
Can you see me?
I can see.
We need
Tim
some
Berman.
Can we
Turn
get
the
some
lights off, we can
sunglasses?
see.
Anyone?
Tim Berman, Community Development. Yes, you indicated the variance request is being made to reduce the side setback for essentially AC units from 30 inches to 18 inches. The request pertains to the single-family lot only within the Woodhaven Phase 1 subdivision, except for 6 lots which have currently been sold that are not owned by ICI. Then that's why those there's 6 lots that are omitted from that list, and why you've got that long laundry list of numbers. Then the request came for us by the applicant. They've recently started submitting the building permits for those homes out there in the single-family lots. And one of the design considerations that came up was that the side setbacks for the AC units was not meeting the code of 30 inches. Therefore, they submitted the variance to request the 18-inch setback. It should be noted that similar concessions have been made in the past on other projects throughout Port Orange that have the 50-foot wide lots that have been approved through PUDs, such as Oak Brook, Royal Palm. All have the 1.5-foot side setback. In addition, the PCA zoning district, which was what the city kind of created out there where Townless Boulevard is, when that was going through, lot widths were established at 50 foot wide, and the setback for the AC units at that time, back in the early 2000s, was reduced to 2 foot then. So there has been basically in the past looking at that, an effort then to kind of adjust the side setback for the AC units based on those 50-foot wide lots that have been previously approved through either PUD or the city changing the zoning districts out west then. The applicant kind of go more into their detail as to kind of the request there, but basically that they've designed those homes, they want to preserve the rear yard and not have the AC units back in the rear. They prefer to have them in the side yard then. That's why they're making this variance request. If they get the variance, they'll be able to put those AC units on the side yard. One of the concessions indicated here from the applicant was that as the AC units have, of course, over time become more and more efficient then, they've also grown in size then. So our setbacks, which were established in the early 1990s, did not keep up with the AC units that grow. I think you can see it on a lot of older homes. For instance, mine, you look at the concrete pad that was poured with the home that, you know, the old AC sat on. It's sitting there, and right on top of it is one of the 35-inch drop precast concrete pad where my new air conditioner sits on. So obviously the AC unit has grown over time, the pad has grown over time, and kind of basically our setback has not adjusted then. We went through the variance criteria. One of the main things that we were concerned about was on that side yard setback, basically because there's essentially about 10 feet between the homes in that case, is ensuring that proper drainage function works then. We were able to work with ICI, if it's approved, to make sure that there are items there to ensure that the swales drain properly. We've listed those in the staff report. One of the key items that we asked for too is if the variance would be approved and they would use an 18-inch setback, that they have to provide us essentially an as-built for that area then on the side yards to show that the proper grades were met prior to CO the home then. That way we know basically that it was properly drained with that reduced setback for the AC units. And also it helps us too in the future if there are drainage complaints and we go out there and the homeowner has since put in tons of landscaping which is not required or other improvements that were not permitted. We've got basically a basis to say this is what was approved, this is what needs to go back to in order to ensure that drainage then. So staff is recommending approval of the request to reduce the side setback to 18 inches for the AC units on those lots within Woodhaven that were mentioned, subject to the 6 conditions that are listed in the staff report then. The applicant's here to also discuss any questions that you might have on their request.
Cool. John, any questions for Tim?
Well, for any of the Get Smart fans back in the days, you basically missed it by that much.
Yes.
Nobody remembers Get Smart?
Yeah.
Missed it
You're
by
older than
that
me.
much.
We're not gonna admit to being
I must
that
be
old.
very old now, now you know. So anyway, so you're basically looking at 12 inches.
Yes.
12 inches, yeah.
I got
I
it
don't
now.
think that, it would affect a lot of things if we did not approve this, and it is kind of tight, and, yeah, I don't see any issues with it or concerns, and, I agree with everything you said as far as AC units being more efficient and stuff. So with me, I don't see an issue with.
You all set? Marie?
Yeah, I'm set.
Marie,
I'm
any
good.
questions? Bo?
Yeah, the only question I had was the placement of the units. And if we have an 18-inch setback, I see here, I think this means that they cannot be next to each other.
Right.
They have
Basically,
to be
8 foot
8
of
feet
separation
apart.
there, so there is not one next to each other.
Right,
Then
so
they
they
kind
have-
of offset then.
So they will have clearance for.
Correct. That
accessibility.
goes back into the concern we had with drainage then, and also to accessibility, to be able to get around there as you're going to have to mow there on that side then too. So that's why we want to have that minimum 8 foot separation.
Right, okay. That's it.
You ever been out in any of this subdivision?
But theoretically, you have 18 inches from the unit to the property line.
Yes.
Stan?
Theoretically.
No questions.
Newton?
I'm pretty good right now.
Lance?
I'm gonna wait for hear from the applicant on this
Okay.
one. I've been affected by this as well, and I kinda been going through this, but we'll talk later.
Oh, I tell you, I will ask staff one question. Is staff going we're gonna work on fixing this citywide? Because obviously, I know this is bumping into problems like he does. I know it's bumping into problems elsewhere. We have a code that's 30 years old. Maybe we need to, update it for current materials and equipment.
I think we could look at that. I guess we'd wait and depend on how this variance goes before we see your direction and on that then. But I mean, that's something the planning commission would like us to look into. That's something we can, look into. That way we don't see continually variances coming forward on this item then.
Well,
But,
the solution is you just don't build a house that close to the property line.
But we've also got a
I mean,
history of
right?
approving these smaller lots,
The
lots.
issue here
That's
is
a whole
that
different subject.
there's only certain
Yeah.
houses, the issue here is there are certain houses that they can't fit on these properties with that 30 inch. There are models they can fit on there with 30 inch.
And also too, there's certain lots in here too, basically due to the shape of the lot, it's not, basically the true 50 by, 110 then, kind of pies off that way. They're gonna meet the code currently. There's just, we couldn't identify all those lots in this variance, that's why we kind of made it apply to all the lots here. And we'll use if it gets approved, they'll use it where they can. And in terms of basically make sure we get a wider setback then on those other lots then, we'll get that then. This is kind of the worst case scenario. If approved, could allow them to put on the side. And they can further discuss kind of the justification and the reason why they're looking for this then.
But wouldn't Newton's question be good though? I mean, any of the subdivisions, if we're starting to see more 50 and 60-foot lots,
Yeah, I think
regardless
it-
of where they are.
Yeah, I
mean,
think
should
we
probably
can look into it,
Right,
but
then-
if the planning commission would deny the variance, then it's gonna be soon, we won't wanna go
Well,
that route
but
then, but if you guys
regardless of
do
what we
approve-
do, just going forward, and I don't know if that starts with us or if that has to start with the city council.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we probably can have that direction to us after this item here, and we can look into it and bring that forward then.
All right.
We've done that before on variances, I think the gas station one with the LED lights on the numbers,
Yeah.
I think you guys saw about 4 of them before you told us, do a code amendment and bring it back to us, because you were tired of seeing those variances then. Something could happen similar to this case then.
Everybody good here? I have two quick questions for you. One, the last item, the last recommendation was on the, not allowing generator or propane tank in there, right? Is that what I'm reading?
Yeah, we've got basically kind of separation requirements then for generators and
Right.
propane tanks then. Basically, kind of meeting the fire codes and stuff like that then. That's why we want to keep those separate then.
I mean, somebody they still have the 30 inch, or the other setback.
There's
The
lar-
18 inch doesn't apply to a
there's-
generator or propane.
Yeah, it's basically the AC, could be pool equipment and stuff like that then.
Right.
But the generators and the underground tanks have other requirements that we've got to look at. It's just not a simple setback one then. So we want to kind of pull those off there, so it didn't include those then.
Good. Who's responsible for that? Is that when somebody goes to put it in, it comes to you guys for the permits?
For a generator?
For
or-
making sure that they don't try to put those products?
Yeah, they go through a building permit process there,
Yeah.
basically mechanical permits, and on the other side, we review those, any type of equipment being put into a house, we'll review it to make sure it meets setback.
Gotcha. The other quick question I have for you was on the drainage, which you guys obviously looked at quite a bit. And you alluded to it, the homeowner goes in after the fact, puts in a whole bunch of whatever, landscaping products, other things. Who's responsible for the situation if the homeowner creates it after the
The-
fact?
Applicant can speak about that because they've also put that in their deed coverage restriction, so it could be an HOA issue. But what we find out a lot is that you get basically the homeowners call us to complain about a drainage situation along their side yard, and we go out to see that person who complained, and we're looking at the neighbor's side yard. It's like, well, we see the problem. He put all this, he put a pavered, walkway there without any permits, or he built a small retaining wall, which is impacting the drainage then. This would allow us to go back and look at that, to go back, it would be a code enforcement action at that point then. And then, here's what's allowed to be on there, here's what got approved, we need to restore it to go back to drainage then. So it helps us there. Also too, when you're doing the grading on those lots then, once you put, sometimes the grading's done early in the process then, it kind of loses the grade. This basically ensures that before we issue the CO for the home, before the owner goes in there, that those grades were properly met and executed. That's why we kind of add that in there then. So it's basically a little bit going above and beyond in there, but it's just basically ensure that that drainage is preserved, which is one of the key issues that we looked at when we were evaluating this.
And we had the same issue, if we had 30-inch setback, we'd have the same issue if a homeowner came along later and
Yeah, you could
put
say,
stuff in.
yeah,
so.
I don't think the setback impacts that then, but
Exactly.
they kind of, we just want to put it in here so you knew that we were looking at that aspect there too.
I
Thank
can
you.
tell you, we have drainage easement in our backyard, so we have a big grate on the side. And when we had problems with, there was a retaining wall there just of railroad ties, but when we had a problem and everything with it, it was our responsibility. The city came out and helped us decide what we should do, how to work with it, how to fix it, but it was our responsibility as homeowners. And we live in Water's Edge, so.
Thanks
Mr.
very
Chair,
much.
can I
sir.
ask one more question, Tim? So Tim, so on that note about, you're saying we're gonna go out there and shoot some grades. We're gonna have, the contractor's gonna be required on his final survey to not only put everything that's on the final survey, the driveway, the air conditioning pad, et cetera, but he's also going to be required to put as-built grades.
Just on that side yard area, not
Has
the
that
entire-
criteria been set? Is it gonna be every 10 feet, is it gonna be 20 feet?
We
What is
basically,
it?
we got that condition in here then, and we'll, when we get the next one here, that's when we'll work with the applicant on ensuring that that's, what the grades are made.
That
then
we're
when it comes in.
maintaining a 2% fall, or whatever it may be?
Yeah,
or
whatever that
meets
that,
a criteria?
When that building permit's been issued, when a building permit's been issued, we have basically grading requirements on there then.
Mhm.
When we go out and do a final inspection, we've got our inspectors looking at that, grade. They don't have the survey equipment to verify that they're basically assuming that that's how
Right.
it's constructed. This is just one more step to ensure that it was constructed properly. It's only in that swale area. It's not gonna be the rest of the lot that.
I've never done an as-built grade on a residential, that's why I'm asking
Yeah.
you. We're
So
gonna
we're-
do a as-built grade of the swale on these lots
Correct.
as part of his final survey.
Correct. Basically,
Oh.
before we issue the CO then.
Okay, interesting.
And that would only pertain to the ones that use this setback. If they can meet the current code of 30 inches,
Right.
that's not required.
I got you, okay.
Thanks, Tim. I'd like to hear from the applicant at this time, if we could. Come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Dick Smith, ICI Homes, Vice President of Land Development, 2379 Bevel Road in Daytona Beach. Also with me tonight from ICI Homes is James Stowers, who is our new Chief Development Officer, Samuel Morissette, who is our Division President, and Lenny San Clemente, who is our Cost Department Manager. And also with us tonight is Bobby Ball from Zev Cohen Associates, who is the project engineer. One thing that I did want to get into first, if you can indulge me, last time I was here, there was a number of questions about the landscaping along I-95 and the fence that we installed. I know that was a hot button issue. That landscaping has not been installed thus far. We have gotten a commitment from the FDOT secretary directly from the owner of ICI Homes that will be happening, and I hope the next time I'm standing before you that is done or much sooner than that. So we are working on that and we are pushing on that. But with regard to this agenda item, I am proud to say that we've opened our model center. We are doing extremely well. We're averaging over $400,000 in our sales prices on these single-family homes. We've been very well received, and we're very excited about what this project holds for us and also for the city of Port Orange. With regard to the specific issues, we really appreciate staff's efforts in this regard. We work very closely to come up with what we think are some good commitments on our part to make sure that the drainage works for us. But it is very important for our current buyer that we are able to have outdoor living space in the backyard, and not have this type of equipment affecting pools and so forth. So this 18-inch setback variance is very important for us with our current buyer. We always look at our houses in our designs that folks live front to back. They don't live in their side yards. They live from the front of the house to the back. So it's very important that we promote that with our designs and with the site plans on our homes. Currently, we haven't had any drainage issues, and we expect that the commitments we've made with regard to the drainage improvements will continue in that regard, and there won't be any impact. I also want to point out that if you look at our site plans are set up so that these houses live out the backyard. We don't have very many back-to-back lots. They all back up to lake, or they back up to conservation area. And so it is, in furtherance of that, it is very critical that we're able to obtain this variance. With that, I can answer any questions if you have any specifics on the technical staff report.
John?
No, I have no questions at this time regarding what we were talking about earlier.
Excuse me, Maria.
I think I'm good.
Bo?
No, thank you.
Stan?
Nothing new?
Newton?
Makes sense to me. Thank you for front loading of the I-95 landscape.
Lance?
Dick, my question is, okay, so how many of these lots are A drainage lots?
The only A drainage lots that we have in this particular phase are, I'm going to say there's maybe a dozen or so on the far west boundary that back up to the conservation area. But as you'll see, most of those in the middle all back up to the lake. Lakes in the middle, and then there's also lakes on the east side that they all back up to.
I find that the A drainage lots are the ones that you're going to struggle with because of the grade. To be able to get the water from the back to the front, you got to raise the house higher, which then makes the side grade very extreme.
Mm-hmm.
What I would like to see, and I guess, was maybe some type of a slab detail, because in reality, with this pad, and I don't know if you guys are putting just the regular AC pad out there that the AC people provide, or are you pouring a concrete pad?
Well, we've discussed with staff that we'd be pouring a concrete pad.
And with that concrete pad, it needs to be a deepened edge, three-sided deepened edge type, so you can grade around it without having to worry about undermining that pad, so that we can make sure that the drainage is positive, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So the only thing I thought might be missing in here might be a slab detail, and just deepening and thickening that edge as it's getting out there on that outer boundary.
Yep.
Near the drainage, so that the water can drain by it without undermining it.
Yeah, that's
Again, I'm dealing with the same thing. I mean, the air conditioners are getting bigger and bigger, and you got to have separation between that and the house, and I get it. So just making sure that we construct that pad so that it's not going to fall in 5 years down the road, I think is the only real thing that I see with this, okay?
Yep, and we've discussed that with staff, we've discussed that with our AC contractors, so we're on board with that.
Yeah.
Also, back to your question previously about the minimum slopes, what we've committed to is minimum 5% side slope and then 1% horizontally in the invert of the swale.
Okay, but the little pads that the AC people provide are not going to work in this application, I don't believe, especially on an A drainage lot.
We agree.
So, okay,
They're
Yep.
styrofoam.
they are not.
Well, ours aren't styrofoam,
They're
but,
styrofoam filled.
yeah.
Styrofoam film.
And with regard to your question, Mr. Chairman, we do intend to place the restrictions regarding plant material in our CNRs, so the HOA would also be helping to to enforce some of those requirements that might impact drainage.
Yeah, that's always a challenge.
It is.
really is.
It
And
is.
you're putting one, I think, 3-gallon plan in there, you said?
Well, limiting it to one, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
One more question, are you allowing fences in these same side yards?
No, fences will only be allowed from the rear corner of the house backward, and then and they're only picket style. We're not allowing any opaque fences that would impact drainage.
Okay.
Everybody good? Any questions? Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very much. I'd like to turn it over to anybody from the public wish to speak on this one. No one from the public? All right, we'll bring it back to the commission then. John did such a good job last time. He entertained. Read the motion with the recommendation.
You got
I wonder
all-
if he can do
you
with
got
all
the right
six.
number of zeros in there, too.
I wrote it down ahead of time.
I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve case number 19-900000006
Subject to
with conditions,
recommendation.
recommendations.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second on approval of the case with the recommendations. You'll call the roll, please?
John Junko.
Yes.
Maria Mills Burnett.
Yes.
Bo Bofamy.
Yes.
Lance Green.
Yes.
Noon White.
Yes.
Stan Schmidt.
Yes.
Chairman Thomas Jordan.
Yes. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate your time.
You guys can't leave, though. You gotta stay for the rest of the meeting.
That's right. Moving on to other business this evening. Commissioner comments. Lance, any comments?
I do.
Notice how he started with Lance.
Was that on purpose, to cut this thing short?
Nothing implied.
You're gonna use up all of our
Tim, you got a
time.
minute? Come on up. Yeah,
Does he have a
I'll be
choice?
under a minute. What I want to say is in just a couple of things, like the sit-go situation I'd asked you about the last meeting, and I appreciate the way you have addressed it. It was immediately addressed, and action has been taken immediately. And I think these things that are important, and things like this Lowe's project in front of us today, and again, I know it goes to the council, but things like that and code enforcement stepping up to keep our stores and especially our commercial stuff looking good, I think I want to commend you on it. When I went out there and those things, the banners were gone, and then of course the guy ran the car through the store, but that was
that was a
different.
nice email we get from you.
That was something different, Jay.
I thought that was some spam
Lack
email
of banners
at first.
for a piece of
But I mean,
paper.
on the Fitgo, that was all code enforcement. They were going ahead. All I did was basically just inquire about it and give you the information. But that was a lot of code
but it's
enforcement
happening,
effort.
and, but it's happening. You know what I mean? And again, I think us, taking the effort to step up with what we got left. I mean, we're almost built out. We talk about these infill projects and things like that, and trying to make them nice to make our community, to continue to be nice. I still think we got to get on top of trying to maintain our commercial properties. I'm looking at things like, the Wawa with the leaky gutters and the 7-Eleven with water stacked out front. And, I know these commercial businesses, it's important to them to display and those things, but at the same token, they're pushing the limits when it comes to, what our code is. But you got the Lowe's stepping up saying, hey, we're going to fix it. We're going to say we're going to do this here, here. And that's acceptable as long as we all know what we can do. But I think I want to commend you on just even like the sit-go. I mean, it happened and it looks better already, except for the wood. Covering the front. Yeah. But
that one, that was all. Gotta say that was all code enforcement staff on that one. Then I just was messing.
Any update on the one out by Williamson and Madeline, the church?
No, we just basically time is ticking. Like we said, they continue to do some limited amount of work on the building. Basically, they're keeping up with the code in terms of basically the appearance of the exterior there. But I know that we have not had any pre-op meetings to do the site work yet. But the time is ticking, and we continually every month send a letter saying and email saying you have X number of months to get this completed. And every time it goes out, it's one less month. So we're keeping on top of him. Just like we did with getting the site plan in then. So we'll continue to do that, and hopefully in May, we're able to show you a
Maybe you
new
need to
building.
require him to come to the next planning commission meeting. We'll handle it for you.
No, just keep up the good work. Thank you, Jim.
To follow up on that,
Understand.
they had a code enforcement magistrate deadline in September of the 18th, didn't they? To meet certain
I
criteria?
think that they had complied with all that
Did they?
criteria, because that was basically on that meeting. I can double check for you on that, but I believe that they had basically met what they had to do prior to that meeting then.
Oh, we just stretched that rubber band even better then. Then we go
Newton, comments?
The closed Kangaroo at Spruce Creek and Nova. The windows have been boarded up since the day they closed it, and there is not a hurricane or reason to be boarding the windows. Please tell me that that's not
A
allowed.
homeowner has the right to be able to secure the property. I can assure you that's what they're going to tell you. That's just security.
We'll look into that. 'Cause I know that they basically have got the plywood over the sign, and people are starting to stick random signs on that thing.
Banners and
Yes.
So I'll go ahead and I'll get with code enforcement tomorrow to see what we can do to address, if we can do something to address that situation with
Well,
plywood at that
The
station.
former signage that was there for the meat market that was next door, it's still kind of hanging up there with a little sliver of the plastic sign still in there and exposed electrical wiring and stuff like that. I don't think they put a stub out box for the electrical coming out of the sign that they took off the Kangaroo. You know, the place looks like
Deserted.
deserted.
Well, all that's left there is the laundromat, right?
Any action with that at all?
And the pizza.
Well,
nothing.
Oh, that's right, pizza, yeah.
pizza place,
Yeah.
the laundromat, there's a tanning salon that opened up down in the other building.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
But we've talked, I know Tim and I have talked about the status of the building and, you know, the entire property and how commercial leases work. But
That's another one where it's got a PCD that was a long time ago, and they were very restrictive on the uses. And basically, we've talked to the property owner a couple times, like, you should rezone this to community commercial. It opens up the uses, which may allow you to get new tenants in there that are suited for that location. They have just not pulled the trigger on submitting the rezoning there.
you might try that again because I think they have a new owner. I think
Okay.
they changed hands. I know they changed management companies.
All right. Well,
Wow. One of the busiest intersections in Port Orange got a blighted property.
Yeah, just like your Sitco station.
It baffles me.
Stan?
Is this the
You all
time-
done? You all
Yeah.
set? Thanks, sorry.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Is this one you wanted to talk about possibly doing the setback on the 50
I think
foot
if,
lots?
you know, if you would want us to, you know, investigate that,
That's
look
what
at
I'm
that.
asking, if this
if
is
that's-
something you want to consider now, or do you want to put that on a future agenda? How do you want to do that?
Oh, you can make the comment about it now.
Yeah, I think that's all we were looking for. Like I said, if we want to see, you know, if it got denied 7-0, we'd be like, okay. might
Yeah,
be
it
good. But,
still needs to go through
but
council.
based off
Since
your
it got
comments,
approved.
I think
It
it's
starts
something you
with
want
the
us to
council,
look
not
at.
with us.
Yeah, it's,
Well,
But it's
they
something we
to
have to
approve
tell
this
them that
variance
we're interested in.
Right.
That we just approved, and the
Okay.
policy considerations.
So we don't want to send our little comments along with the variance?
We can.
I think basically everything we've discussed here has given me clear direction on what you would like us to bring forward as a proposed code amendment. And eventually that will go to council, basically as here's code amendment kind of recommended from planning commission with these setback, these criteria then. And if they accept it in the code, it will be code. If not there, but we've kind of got your clear direction as what you'd like us to move forward with here in the next couple of months. So we should be bringing something forward to you here, you know, hopefully by the end of the year then.
Well,
Hang on a second, Tom, with that being said, so don't we have other neighborhoods that got this maybe same situation where we've got 5-foot setbacks?
Correct, we've got,
I mean, we've got to have them out
Oak
there,
Brook
yeah, I
is
mean,
basically they, in their PUD, they put in, you know, the setback in there, the 1.5 then, so that's how an Oak Brook was built then. In, like I said, Royal Palm, they have it spelled out, even with the different type of models that they have, they've got a couple different setbacks for AC units on the side then. So Royal Palm addressed it. The PCA district where Port Orange Plantation is, and
Right.
I forgot what the other, Westport Reserve and stuff like that, that was basically, they reduced that already for that area down to 2 feet, and they were able to make that work then. So there are some,
on a 5-foot setback?
yeah, they would basically kind of, they did theirs on the 50-foot, on the 5-foot setback. then.
Right.
So, I mean, there are some PUDs that allowed the 50-foot that did not put that special setback in there that would apply to. There may be some other lots around here that are, you know, the 50 to 60, in the redevelopment area of the city, over off of, in the Harbor Oaks area and stuff like that. They might benefit from it then. So we would look, you know, I mean, that's when we do a code amendment, we would look at to what's been impact and stuff like that, and, you know, bring that forward to you.
Because
on
in
your-
some of those cases, like in some of, and again, some of the ones I'm doing in Smyrna, where that 5-foot setback, 2.5 feet of that is a drainage setback, or a drainage portion of a 5-foot setback. And the air conditioner wasn't even allowed to be in the drainage portion
Yeah,
of
and
it.
ours,
It
we don't
was
have the.
really tight.
Our drainage are the front and the back of the house then, so we don't have to, we don't have to worry about that in the side yard of this one then. Once you get in the drainage easements, that's a little bit different, because then you can't do the variance to go into those then, so.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be something.
Well,
that would be-
technically, they're all drainage easements on the side yards. They're all have a drainage.
They have a drainage component.
Okay.
But the easement basically prevents you from putting structures in there then. Basically, we're able to kind of keep the drainage function still going through
I
with
gotcha.
what we're doing here then.
Yeah, okay.
But
Sorry.
some of those older lots may have that drainage easement, which could, if you get the setback, still wouldn't allow them to do you know,
It's a little-
on the,
Right.
There's a
Hang the air
a s-
conditioner on the side of the house.
yeah. There's a section in
How's it from-
there's a
make sure you
section
get
in
flooded?
Riverwood
Nice.
that's zero lot line as well. By over there by Yosemite, there's the little
yeah.
narrow ones where the sidewalks messed up.
Sorry, Stan.
No, I was just trying to figure out if this is something we want to
Yeah,
bring
it is. I
forward
think it
now,
is.
so-
I think he's got
Right,
direction.
so-
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Do we need
Perfect.
to take action, or do you, or
We're
just
good.
comments are picked up and we're good?
Comments are picked up.
All right, that's fine.
Spending's good, so we're good.
We're good. We got it. Bo,
Ricky.
Thank you.
Maria,
I'm
any
good.
comments? John.
Um,
He has a list.
no,
I'm
it's
just kidding.
just minor. No, I'm gonna make it quick. So this Holiday Inn Express is gonna happen. He's definitely gonna.
The one behind
Good.
the 7-Eleven?
Yeah, and the shooting range, we're gonna get a permit for that soon?
The one out on Pioneer?
Well, that's gonna be for the PD then. That one, I believe we get the site plan issued.
Uh-huh.
So they're doing site work out there now, and then, you know, building permits will have to come in there, but that's moving along nicely then.
Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
we were out there doing skeet and trap last week, and they were doing a lot of work out there, even
I
on a
told
Sunday.
you my comments
Right.
were short and brief, see? At ease. That's
You're
it,
good?
I'm good.
Cool. The only comment I had was, obviously I've been emailing Tim back and forth about transportation and traffic counts. Could you do a 5-minute primer on fair share next meeting?
Oh, yeah, they're gonna say right now. Yeah, next meeting we can give you a little bit of update on that, on the fair share also too. To go over some of the projects that we're working on
Mhm.
to address capacity. And,
That would be awesome.
I got the, you know, we've got the slide up here is basically kind of, this is basically what we are currently have in motion.
There you go.
You just made me think of something else.
Sorry about you.
Oh,
No.
Ooh, you're in
I mean,
trouble.
this basically slide here kind of shows kind of what we've got going on in terms of transportation improvements. Some of it in conceptual stage, other in the TPO and design. But as you can see, a lot of this has been basically really going on the past 3 to 4 years. And I'll go over all this next week then, but a lot of it's basically, we're at the point now where we can't add lanes of traffic basically to resolve the capacity. So we're targeting, looking at basically ways to improve the capacity of what we've got. So looking at turn lanes, expansion. One of the things we recently did with the TPO was a lot of those left turn lanes on Dunlawton to turn onto Yorktown, onto Village Trail to get to the school, a couple other ones. You see all the ruts where basically people are driving over there.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've been stopped at the light where I need to get in that turn lane and I can't. Extending those turn lanes. That way we get more cars that are turning left off the road, allows more cars to go through. It's not going to drastically, you know, make it free flowing again, but it's going to do improvements there. So that's what we're targeting. Also, too, we've been working with the county on the new adaptive traffic signals along Dunlawton. So that will basically help adjust the traffic signals with traffic flow there. Along with these improvements here on turn lanes, it's going to basically slowly gain us some more capacity there, which is going to kind of, you know, assist what we've got there. So there are plans in motion, not on Dunlawton 2. We've got a lot on Clyde Morris we're targeting. We've got some stuff on Williamson Boulevard we've been looking at too. The Williamson Boulevard, the real issue there is that widening. That bridge, the last cost estimate we got from the county, since it's their roadway, looking at about $27 million for that bridge. So what we started looking at was, okay, can we do turn lane expansions on our 2-lane segment to gain capacity? I mean, I think if you look, you're coming over the bridge now, to turn on to Town West Boulevard, it's a pretty short turn lane to get downtown West Boulevard. If you extended that, can you get more traffic off Williamson that's turning on Town West to keep Williamson flowing? Those are all things that we're looking at. Those would also be eventually fair share projects, so these new developments that you see come in would be paying toward those improvements. It's not going to be something where, you know,
That's where that half-cent sales tax failure really hurt too.
Right, and the other thing too, the biggie one, which I think Lance, you point out quite a bit to me, is the Yorktown Boulevard extension. A lot of our projects that basically impact Williamson, we have them paying into the Yorktown Boulevard extension project. I think the Holiday Inn that went last week for fair share agreement was something like $50,000 that went into that, and I've got 3 or 4 more projects lined up here that are paying a pretty good chunk into that that fund then. So we're starting to build up quite a bit of money there on that one, so that could allow for that. That gives you basically that alternative route around that portion of Williamson then. So there's a lot that we've got going on. I can go over that, plus go over the fair share policy that we have in our code, plus kind of state what we've got to kind of work with these new developments then. I
So
can do
there's
that.
a formula for that. you use?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Question.
Yes.
Can, and I'm sure it's just something you have to relay. On Williamson, when you're going over that bridge to turn, you come to the light at Willow Run. There needs to be something before the bridge that really catches people's attention, that there's a light on the other side of the bridge. I've seen 2 accidents there recently of people getting rear-ended because people fly over that bridge and everybody on the other side is stopped.
Usually this type of signage basically acknowledge that,
Yeah.
be careful on that then.
Be careful
Red
on the
light
other
ahead,
side, there's
yeah.
a traffic
That's-
light, yeah.
that's gonna be
Matter
a-
of fact, last planning commission meeting, I actually pulled over because somebody got rear-ended on my way here. So, I'd love to see something on the other side of that. And can we get a copy of what you just had up?
Yeah, I can, I mean, next week
Well, if
or
it's in the next
month,
packet, that's
we'll
fine.
put basically kind of I'll do a small kind of, here's what we're gonna talk about, and put that as an exhibit then.
Perfect.
That way we can make sure, we just gotta put that one together right now.
Yeah, that's fine.
Make sure basically everything's up to date on there then before
That's
we give it up
just
to
a
you.
small portion of what you're working on there. right?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
throw another monkey
Okay.
wrench with my suggestion. Have we done any future case studies with traffic flow near the high schools in the Spruce Creek Road area or
I believe Volusia County,
the Taylor Road?
along with our police department, basically did a study couple, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, since that was basically Volusia County roadway system there, Clyde and Taylor then,
Yeah.
and basically on ways to do some improvements there. I think they made some of those on there then, but
Can't add an extra lane on the opposite side with the sidewalks and pump everything back?
Isn't the school gonna be slated to be demolished and a new school and, no?
No.
That's
Not
what I
Spruce
heard.
Creek.
Anyway,
she's-
That's what I heard.
she'll answer all the school questions.
I don't
It's
think
just,
so.
I
So real
hate-
quick, I'll ask you, are they extending the turn lane at Airport Road at Williamson? I saw a bunch of survey stakes out there today at the Acorn Storage. Airport Road and Williamson at the light.
They should
There-
have
yeah,
not put a
Acorn-
median
Acorn
there
has
between
some-
those turn lanes.
Acorn has some lane improvements there, so they'll probably get started on that
Well,
then.
okay.
We'll make sure.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. While we're right there.
Oh,
while we're
Lord.
right there.
Well, That's my
I'm glad I
question.
brought up all this.
I'm
questions
still
for you
waiting on my
guys.
answer.
I'll run to schools.
You jumped the gun on me.
The
Sorry, John.
The
It's Johnny's
in turn lane for Acorn Storage, I saw a car right in front of me the other day. They pull in that thinking they're gonna go on
Thinking they're
Airport
gonna go,
Road.
yeah.
And you look at that curb there and it's all marked up with tires and.
That was me.
That's what
yeah.
I was gonna say. That's what I was saying when
Happy
Lance
birthday
brought it
party.
up. They shouldn't have put that little median there. They should have just made it one straight thing. So you could, because then that would free up traffic too.
We'll look into that. And that again basically was a county roadway, so that was approved through Volusia County then. But we'll take
Lance
a look
and
at
I'll
that
go
then.
out there one morning with a
Jackhammer.
jackhammer and
Fix it.
Fix it.
Back to me. Let me finish on my questions here.
I still haven't gotten my answer. You guys
Which answer
stepped
did
all
you
over
want?
me.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Which answer
John.
did you? What was your question?
Go ahead, John.
I was referring to the traffic studies in the high school
Yes.
area, and I wanted to know a little more information. Were there any options that they found out with DOT, or it is getting worse? And you even have a sign. By the way, your sign is half
Congestion.
flaky because
Yes.
it doesn't show all the wording. Your high traffic sign, your flashing light, yeah, it's a pretty messed up sign.
I think they took it down.
I thought I
this
saw
week.
it. Well,
But
I,
they're not.
I
It's a
think
temporary sign and it's been
yeah.
up there a
Anyway, it
long
needs to be
time.
fixed.
That's
But
good to
know.
have,
school goes on.
what have DOT come up with? Because I mean, being a resident, it's getting worse, and I hate to say it. I know we're a product of our own success, but the traffic there is getting incredible. And I figured maybe another lane or somebody doing more studies. It's getting rough.
Do a flyover there.
It's a shame you can't make the parent loop entrance from the other side somehow.
Yeah,
that
there's a
was
lot
the
of options. I
You
just
remember what
don't
that
know.
was said? Penny, I think basically.
Part of the
had
problem
saw
is
it,
that
so
the VIP that directs traffic is blocking part
Oh,
of the lane
you
that
don't want
can
to talk about
pull
that.
people because well, I mean he
We're
has
stacking
to.
up
It's-
traffic with all the lights.
Right.
So you get through one light, and then they gotta wait for people to dump out people out of the circle before they get enough cars in that. It's a mess.
And if any parents are watching, pull up in that circle. That would help tremendously.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the few times in life you get to tailgate. Pull up.
Penny, you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah.
So a couple things. There was a traffic study conducted by Volusia County School District, and we can send that to you after this meeting. Tomorrow we can email that out to the planning commissioners so you can look at their recommendations. There's not a lot you can do with the actual roadways because they are constrained roadways. We don't have the right of way to add lanes and things like that. The school is one of one of a few of the schools that the school district has that when it's under that single roof like that, it makes it really hard to do the remodels and replacements. And it's not a school that they can just kind of close down and take the time to demolish and rebuild. So they are they're doing a few things. They've got a piece where they're doing an expansion area coming up soon to add, and take some of those portables off. They are working on a master plan for the area that can address some of that changing of the parking. They already have made some modifications to the parking loop over the year and expanded it. Another part of the problem is nobody rides the bus.
Well,
And
they got
that's
the IB
citywide.
program, and they're
That's
trucking kids in
citywide.
from
That's
all over.
citywide. And I'm just gonna get on my soapbox here for a minute, but
I got on mine, so
yeah.
go
So
for it.
so you'll notice that traffic is so much better when school's not in session. The way the school zones are drawn, there's subdivisions that are on the west side of the city, on the west side of 95, that have to go to schools on the east side of the city, on the east side of 95, and vice versa. Middle schools, elementary schools, and those schools they are zoned to ride the bus because of the distance. But nobody's putting the kid. They're not riding the buses. There's very low bus ridership in the city of Port Orange. And you'll just see the difference. Just pay attention when it's
I wasn't allowed to
when
ride
it's
the
the
bus,
holiday. When it's
You
the
got
holiday.
banned from the bus, I'm sure.
And
That
then
was-
the
that was a
time
police
change
action,
too has
wasn't it?
impacted it
Oh,
this
yes.
year. But if you pay attention during the Christmas break, spring break, when summer's out, you can get through so
Oh,
much.
yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah,
not
absolutely.
it's not all unplanned growth and things like that. I mean, we do traffic concurrency in the city of Port Orange. We're one city that you can even ask other agencies that we really take that seriously, and we do that during our development review. So it's not an unplanned growth traffic issue.
It's only during
there's
school.
No, it's-
there's a
it's
big
only during
impact to
school.
that.
The school, it was built in 1970 or whatever it was, and when it wasn't built for the growth that it's had now.
Yeah, and
so
yeah.
the parent loop, actually, when I went to school there, the parent pickup loop was actually the bus loop.
Yes.
And the parent pickup loop was where the buses
Yes,
are.
correct.
And they had to flip it because of the
And they've
traffic.
adjusted the layout too, where there were
Yes.
some areas in the center, they've expanded it already and made some
Yes.
changes there, yeah. And then for security reasons, we live in a different world and we have these new security codes now where we have single point of access, so they can't open that gate
Yeah.
any earlier. The cars start lining up almost an hour before
they do?
dismissal.
Oh,
Yes.
over an hour.
But they can't open that gate.
But I know
It's
people that
insane.
come from Banal. They come from
Oh, yeah,
because it's the
absolutely.
IB
Because of the
program.
IB
Yeah.
It's a
I
unique
think
school.
I came to it from the
So-
last street in Ormond by the Sea. It took me an hour to get to high school every year.
And again, you had no choice but
There's-
to
that
drive
is-
or to
that's
get a
you. Yeah,
ride,
yeah.
you know,
I
because
rode
there's
the
no
bus.
bus coming to get you.
I rode the bus.
So yeah, it's-
The school bus or
Yes,
the
I
city
did.
bus?
School bus.
Oh, see, they don't do
If
that
you're-
anymore.
No, they do. If you're in the IB program, if you're in a specialized program that's only provided at that school.
But there has to be enough students to provide that. Like I know a student in DeLand, she doesn't have access to a bus because she's the only one in her area.
Mm.
So it depends if they have enough
Yeah.
students.
But
to
they
make
are
it
looking
worthy.
at that. We'll send you that
You're a little
report.
smarty kid.
So
they
we'll
did
send
come
you
up with
that.
suggestions.
They have a few. They've done a lot of them already. There's not a lot of big physical things
Oh,
that
I
you're
see.
going to see.
Okay.
Right.
There may be some improvements when they have the funding to actually move forward with that master plan for the campus. But until then,
Yeah.
there's not a lot. That road is a constrained roadway, so there's not. You can't add like a lane or anything like that.
The retention pond's never full. I'm just saying. Very rarely have I seen that retention pond full.
Bo told me he walked to school uphill both ways in the snow.
In the
every-
snow?
For 2
Oh,
miles.
don't go away, Tim.
Barefoot.
No, Tim, I had one last question there to finish up. Sorry.
Nice try though, Tim.
Getting all the way back, you'd mentioned on Lance's comment about Yorktown. What is the timeline status on extension? Have you guys moved it forward anywhere on that?
We haven't established the timeline. We're basically just doing the fair share to collect it then. And basically, probably start looking at that once if we collect that money, then we'll start looking at how much we got in there and start, moving that, hopefully, possibly look at it, next year to start moving that along then, as a project then.
Cool. Thank you very much.
One more thing that was in the newspaper. The hospital or the ER at Williamson and
That's gonna be
Taylor.
an awful place.
Yes.
Obviously, it was already in the news, in the media about and stuff that I read, we saw that, 2 years ago, has a multi-level, multi-story storage facility building, and we liked that idea because there's not a lot of day trips, there's not a lot of traffic. And even a couple of weeks ago, I was coming from Ormond Beach, going out to Water's Edge, in fact, and I got off at 95 and realized, how do I get to a left-hand turn on Williamson? I had to go all the way out, turn around at Summer Breeze, and come back and go out Williamson to get to Water's Edge. So we just don't have mobility in that area, and I can't fathom that they're trying to put something that's going to need ambulance,
I don't know how the
emergency, fast
ambulances are gonna get
access. Are they coming to us, or?
No, I mean, the property zone, standard zoning district, ICD, interchange commercial. In addition to the storage facility, they came to you guys for a special exception, but they had also proposed to put a hotel and a restaurant on that property in addition to that storage unit then. So in terms of the trip generation, when you look at basically trips there, what was proposed, first of all, storage, hotel, sit-down restaurant versus medical. The medical
Higher
is
traffic.
a reduction
Yeah.
in traffic if you're looking at those two type of developments then. As for your access point, that was coming up from the get-go with the storage unit and the hotel and restaurant. What we started working with the property owner at that time is to get that left turn lane into the site. So what has been going on is basically that the former property owner, I believe Advent Health and their attorneys, have been working with FP&L because at the FP&L access point, and then there's that shopping center across the street then, that creates a full intersection. So what they've worked on is basically to have a left turn into the FP&L site. It will go through the FP&L property and enter that commercial site there that way then. So you will be able to make a left turn into
Further down.
that property then. You will not have to do a U-turn.
But I worry about if there's an emergency and there's an ambulance coming out or a fire truck going in or whatever. That's a horrible location to try to pull in and out of. Even down there by the FPL entrance. It's horrible. I don't know how they're going to get in and out of there with ease.
So can I comment while we're commenting?
Sure.
Again, we've not seen any site plan from this. It's basically there, so we.
Well, I mean, but
have
they
just-
put it in the newspaper.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But
And-
we haven't seen a site plan on that then to see what.
So in other
What
words,
it would
access-
actually look like.
We just know that there will be a left turn lane into the site because we've looked at the FP&L access plan there for any property that gets developed then on that side, and also know that that property is zoned and has been zoned for commercial since the early
Forever.
90s. So those property rights have been on that property for a long period of time to be commercial uses. It's nothing
Right,
that
but-
has changed over
Right.
recently then.
But what we're losing here is, and you say because it's a hospital, it's gonna be less trips, I'm gonna disagree with you. But what we're getting ready to lose is fair share. Are we? Are they gonna have to pay a fair share to
Yeah.
our road system?
Yeah.
Even though because hospitals are all not-for-profit, so they're already off the tax roll. You won't be
This-
collecting
this
any
is-
tax
this
on
is
this bill.
not-for-profit.
Yeah, this is
Advent's
medical
not
office.
not-for-profit.
I mean, we're reviewing the traffic study, so they will pay into fair share basically once we get that determined then.
Because, I mean, there's another nice drop in the bucket for Yorktown. In reality, this has got to affect the Yorktown
Yeah.
It's
circle.
for
You know?
profit.
It is.
Yeah, they will have to do a traffic study and pay into fair share, and we've already discussed that, you know.
Okay. I mean, that would be a huge concern. To me, I thought it was gonna be taken off the tax roll.
No, they're fully aware of traffic study and fair share will be pending.
Advent
Go
is
figure.
for profit as well.
Okay.
So
I just knew they were a religious hospital, I thought, or something, but.
Anything else? Good, thank you very much. Tim, appreciate it. Anything from the public? Anything from the public tonight? No, anything from you? You haven't said a word all night.
Good thing.
Well, that's true. We had a light evening. If there's no further discussion, motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Approved. Thank you very much.